Hey everyone, this is Rachel. Thanks for clicking on my video. And y'all, as you can see in the title, I came in to speak on the interview that I just got done watching with Joyce and the panel, and the interview they did with the Ex-Tscc member. First off, I want to congratulate Joyce and the panel for getting the interview. I guess it was a get when you think about where she was coming from. But after watching the interview, I was a little bit disappointed. Not with Joyce and the panel, but with the Ex-Tscc member. While I was watching the interview, my big takeaway that I was getting was that she was being evasive. You know, she was answering questions as though she knew that VS was watching, and she was being very careful about her answers. Now, the biggest thing that everyone in the chat kept talking about is how she know nothing about nothing. She talked about being there for the better part of 2 years, but all this stuff that has happened, she wasn't aware of it unless it was spoken about in the chat. And I find that hard to believe. The callers as well as the panel went down a list of things that have been done in this past year that VS has done to different people. Now this woman, TC, sat there and acted as though all of this was news to her. She really didn't understand what was going on because she wasn't in the quote-unquote top tier, and she just didn't know. And again, I find that hard to believe. Now, several of the people that were in the chat spoke about her hearing about the things that VS was being accused of. And when she heard what was going on, what were her feelings on it? And again, she spoke in circles and you never really got a straight answer from her. So for me, this interview was more about her and her promoting herself and, you know, what her education and her experience in the business world and all of that. Because we all know that when we watch some of the videos that VS puts out, they have nothing to do with what this woman claims her contribution was. VS, you know, talks about the LGBTQ community, but she doesn't do educational, informative, heart-pounding interviews or topics of discussion on it. It's to put someone down or to this or talk about, you know, her, you know, I guess being bisexual, but it's not a hard-hitting, fact-based, you know, I guess video that she puts out. The things that VS puts out, they are not positive. And when I was watching this woman in the interview with the panel, I kept coming back to, so you were there all this time, and with all this education and all of these degrees and you know, whatever you have behind your name, you didn't see anything that was wrong. You mentioned in the interview that a lot of times VS was reacting to something that was being done to her. That is not true. And we know that. Now, there were times that people did attack her and she made a follow-up video, but the majority of the time, people were making videos in response to something that she did to them. And VS would come back and make numerous other videos just to keep the beef going, keep her coins coming in and all of this. I was so disgusted with this Ex-Tscc member. She did not take responsibility for her part in any way. She acted like she was a person who was just coming on to YouTube yesterday, and she heard a little bit about this VS person, but she really didn't know the depth of what, this VS person was doing. Y'all, I call BS on that. These people that are that leave that cult, and we'll talk about her definition of a cult too, or these people who are kicked out of that cult, they still care about what VS thinks of them. It's almost like they tread lightly so that they will be asked back, in the future. Now, as far as her answer when one of the panelists asked her, did she believe that this was a cult? And she went through this whole rigmarole about if it was a cult, everyone in the group would be on the same page, moving in the same way. That's not true. That's not true. A true cult leader looks through their group and they pull people out, first of all, who they feel that they could get undying loyalty. And they make those people their top tier. But every person in that group serves a purpose. You know, they serve a purpose. So when she gave the definition of what she did not think was a cult, that was the true answer, because that's how the cult leader controls them. They make them think that what they're offering the cult is valuable. Like when she kept talking about her contribution and her knowledge of 5013Cs or whatever the hell she was talking about, because y'all, the shit was bullshit and I forgot the letters, the numbers of whatever she was talking about, because I'm with the people that were in the chat. This was a whole bunch to do about nothing, and not on the panelists' fault, because they did ask hard-hitting questions, but she just never answered them. To me, she talked in circles. She did a whole bunch of talking, but she really wasn't saying anything. Now, what my angle would have been to keep her focused on the questions that people were asking, the legitimate questions that people had down in that chat. I would have kept coming back to her role. What did you think of it? See, sometimes, because people like her, they are so hung up on their education and using big words and all of that. Bring it away from that. Bring it to, like they said, what did you think when you heard these things? When you heard that she said that she would like to put a penis in Five Babe's daughter's mouth, and when she was calling Sean Bradley a child molester, and she was doing mock funerals and all of these different things. What did you think? And then once she gave her answer, ask her, with the education that you have and the background and the obvious intelligence that you had, when you saw her manipulating elderly and all of that, how could you in a clear mind continue on with the group? Because from what I get, from what she said, the only reason why she's not in the group now is because she was kicked out. Am I right about that? Because see, y'all, a lot of this stuff with VS, I have to turn on and turn off for a while, because the stuff is so crazy. And this little young woman has been able to manipulate and run rampant through these YouTube streets, manipulating and doxing and all of this stuff that she's been doing. I have to turn it off. Y'all, I have a child that's a little bit younger than her. So when I sit back and listen to First of all, what she's been allowed to do on these YouTube streets. And then the simple-minded people that follow her. Because y'all, let's make no mistake about it. I don't care how many degrees that woman that was on that panel last night has. To me, she sounded stupid. She sounded stupid, naive, and also afraid of VS. All of these people are afraid of her and what could happen to them if they speak too freely. And if you truly didn't care, say you're out the group and you don't care about them anymore, you could give less than a fuck what they think. Why are you treading lightly when you discuss what, the fuck shit that she does? Why are you treading lightly? That's like when you break up with a man and you're done. I mean, you're done, you're not going back. You start telling everything that went on in that relationship that you didn't like and what led you to up and leave. You don't give a damn no more. You're not trying to hide stuff because you stand with him and you don't want people to call you stupid because you know his faults, but you still stand. When you break up and you leave for good, you start talking about shit. I know y'all didn't know he did this, that, and the other to me. I know y'all didn't know he did this. You start talking about that. But what I notice with these people is they seem afraid. And you wonder why, because this one, the one that interviewed last night, said she didn't have to give any personal information. She didn't have to do this, that, and the other. So if she doesn't have anything on you, why are you afraid to speak about or speak your, excuse me, y'all, speak your truth? Why are you still treading so light? I don't get this, y'all. And the very fact that they continue treading lightly even after they leave on their own or are kicked out makes me more inclined to believe that this is a cult, because this is cult-like behavior. Forget what VS is doing. Look at the people who have left. Look how scared they act. Y'all, this is a little 30-something-year-old woman. She ain't even been on this earth long enough to be ruling people like this. It's unbelievable. It really burned my soul when the TC talked about how, there are some elderly members or older people and how she manipulates them and how she gets, some of them to do some of her dirty deeds. If you know that, if you know that she's taking advantage of the elderly and manipulating them, how could you stay in that? What does that say about your character? Even though this TC person tried to come off as being above the fray, and that wasn't my position there, and I was not down for that, and oh yes, absolutely, that was wrong. If VS did that, then yes, that was wrong. I get that she was down for whatever just to stay in the group. It's like they kept their mouths closed so they wouldn't be kicked out. What are they getting from it? You know? What do they get from this young woman? Even one of the callers said something about that she believed that VS, or she asked the question, could VS be using her sexuality to lure some of these women in? I when the caller asked the question, I got what she was saying. I got what she was saying. Because sometimes people are attracted to, because we can't say she's beautiful, and I'm speaking of VS now, beautiful, sexy, alluring. But there's something, there could be a woman who doesn't really have a whole lot going for her looks wise, but you notice that she seems to attract a certain guys anyway, because it's the way they carry themselves. And I believe that it's a certain type of weak individual that is attracted to that controlling behavior that VS displays. Y'all, this whole thing with that quote unquote cult over there, I find very interesting. I don't understand how people could get sucked in, lured in, stay, do her dirty work. I just don't get it, y'all. Every time I see one of these people leave, or I see a discussion about what's going on with VS and how she's running rampant through these YouTube streets, I always sit back and say, how did this shit even get to the point of where it is? You know? How did she get people to start channels and put money in banks in their names? What is she saying to them? Is she practicing some type of witchcraft, and she has a spell over these motherfuckers, y'all? Cause this shit is crazy. Y'all, I don't understand when people don't think for themselves. Ever since I was a young person, I never was a follower. First of all, I was a nerd, and I pretty much was in that nerd group, you know. So I pretty much was on my own, thinking on my own and moving on my own. Then when I got a little bit older, maybe 16, 17, and I broke out of my shell and I wasn't a nerd anymore, and it was probably more like 17, 18. But I still could not be that follower. I was the type of person, I had to stand back and watch the landscape to see what was going on first before I even chose a friend. I don't trust people right off. I will be friendly. That's the difference. I will meet you and I will be friendly, but I'm not all in to you until I find out a little bit about you. I will keep you at arm's length. So these people just giving in and giving all their loyalty and support to this fool, I don't understand it, y'all. I want to know what y'all thought of the interview. I don't believe that we got anything out of it as far as being in the chat and viewing the interview. I tip my hat to Joyce and her panel. They tried. They did ask her the questions. And those people in the chat, y'all, if y'all go back and read some of those questions or and some of those comments they were making, they were hitting her up with all the questions in the comments that we all have been, thinking about or wanting to ask, but she never answered them. She talked in circles, and that's what I got from it. I want to know what y'all think of it. Leave it down in the comments. Let me know what you think, because I'd be curious to see if anybody else got any new information about TSCC or VS out of that interview. Y'all take care now. Thanks for clicking on my video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye now.